interesting about this story, because I also share something very similar in my career. I wanted to go in defense, and I think that is so different when we opt for something similar. So I would love to know a bit about you, how your entire career journey flew, and how is it feels today for you.
Yes, hi. Good
Thank you.
afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session. And Vikram had told me that he would like me to speak about career in hospitality. I'm very happy to do so. Um, Sorry to keep you awake on a lazy summer afternoon. I mean, I'm sure that most of you would prefer to sleep, but um, uh, it'll be a good spend of time. So thank you, Vikram, once again for inviting me over. And thank you to all the students who have joined here. You all look bright eyed and bushy tailed, I must say, whichever I can see on the screen. And I'm happy to know that you are wanting to explore the possibilities of building a great career into hospitality industry, which is awesome, because if I take you 30 years, 33 years ago in my lifetime, when all the Indian parents probably thought that the career is only engineering or a doctor. And I had another career option to be an army officer because I'm from the family background of defense personals. My father was into army. My brother is a serving commanding officer right now in Mau. Um, but army is something which I always thought was very, very formal, and hence I never wanted to join. But here I landed up into hotels, which is even more formal when it comes to being with guests. And of course, like every student, I did manage to give both my exam because I had mathematics as well as science. And as luck was have it, I wanted to become a neurosurgeon, but I landed up into engineering. So I'm a 1 year mechanical engineer from Regional Engineering College. And post that, I left that to join hotel management because I thought there wouldn't be too much in hotels to do. Make couple of dishes, wash couple of utensils, and I'll be sorted out. Trust me, I had no clue that there is something called front office, there is housekeeping, there is engineering, there is okay. I thought as much that there'll be a little thing of food science, nutrition, but I thought hotel management was all about food and nothing else. So here I was 1 year down the line into doing my engineering and landing up into Calcutta to do my hotel management. I was 1 month late because there was trouble in Kashmir. My father was posted in Kashmir and I belong to Kashmir. So this I'm talking about in 1991, actually 1990, right? Um so I landed up into hotel management, and then I think it just grew on me. It was so fascinating uh, because I had never been to a five-star hotel, never ever. So that was the first time I ever stepped into a five-star hotel. Taj Bengal had recently opened up in 1990. And 91, I was doing my industrial training in Taj Bengal. I think everything of my career actually changed during my internship with Taj Hotels. It was a newly opened hotel. There were these very, very cool chefs, I would say, from Caribbean cruise lines, um, tattooed arms, short hairs. They looked like pirates of the Caribbean. There were three, four of them handling the coffee shop. And as they would walk around, they would stick their knife on somebody's chopping board and take the asparagus bunch away and walk off. Well, today I understand it was all a part of joke and everything. But during that time, when I was just 19 years old, I thought, wow, that was so cool. It was like Pirates of the Caribbean, and kitchen is the place to be because it's so cool. And you can show knives to people and walk away with things of theirs. Um, well, and so many things happened during the industrial time because industrial training really teaches you a lot of things. Today, luckily, you people are so exposed to the hotels and cafes and pubs. But I was born and brought up in a very, very secluded army cantonment. Our life of army children revolves in an army cantonment. There were there was a club in the army cantonment. There was a movie theater in the army cantonment. There were sports activities in the army cantonment. So you know, a defense personal kid would never venture out. He would always be there in the cantonment, and that was the life. But I think it was amazing when it came to working in kitchens. Of course, the story of the Pirates of the Caribbean, and the another story that changed my life was one day I really saw one guest very upset and shouting and screaming on a manager, and so much so that he went on abusing. There were a whole lot of turmoil happening in that restaurant. That restaurant name was Shonargaon. And then I saw this chef, Arvind Saraswat. He's no more. We lost him 6 years ago. But I mean, he was really my idol. I would really look up to him because silver gray hair, silver gray buttons. He looked like a brigadier out of the army. Very well, very suave, very, very dapper. Absolutely a handsome chef. Um, and when Chef Arvind Saraswat walked in, the guest was absolutely quiet. The guest pulled a chair and offered the chef to sit in the restaurant. I'm telling you, that day itself, I made up my mind that if I have to join a hospitality industry, it only has to be kitchen. Because I learned we had no televisions. I mean, we had television, but there were only two channels that would come: DD1 and DD2. There was no remote. You had to get up to change the channel on the television. So of course there was no internet, nothing. So we really had the passion from the work that we learned from our mentors, from the things that we saw in the kitchen. We grew up making mistakes. We grew up learning, and we knew that it was a hard way because in our mind there was nothing called a celebrity chef. We were never looking forward to coming on television. We never thought chef as a profession you will become so famous and popular. So our focus was entirely on learning the cuisine, learning the skills, refining the skills, because one thing clearly we understood at a very young time is that if you have to survive in the kitchen industry, you better be good. And I remember the dialogues of my father in army. He said, even if you become a cobbler, make sure that you become the best cobbler, around in that street. So I think those words really stuck with me. And necessarily, of course, not that I started my career wanting to be the best. I don't think I'm the best. There are so many better people out there. But at least you wake up, you go to work, and every time you talk to yourself and say, what is the value that I'm going to add to myself today? And what is the value I'm going to add to somebody else's life today? Because I think it's very important, when you have seen and been there, done that for 30 years in your career, and you're still learning every day. I think it's a moral responsibility of any senior chef to mentor the young budding chefs, um, not to let them reinvent the wheel. Of course, see from the fresh eyes. That's always important. But at the same time, nudge them a little bit to say, hey, be careful of this, because we have gone through that, and our times were really different. The ways of teaching of people were very different. I'll give you an example. In kitchens, people used to be abusive, but at the same time, people used to be physically abusive also. They would hit you if you made mistakes. Seriously, I mean, we've been hit by commies, we've been hit by chefs. There were times when a tandoor person would put the hot sheik in the tandoor and then would turn it upside down and not tell you anything
Ish.
and ask you to check the kebabs. And the moment you went and touched the seek, your hand burnt. And then he would stand there and he would tell you, Dekha, ab next time, check karke haath dalna hamesha. And I'm not joking, till date, when I'm putting the fresh sheiks from the pot wash into my kitchen, I touch them. Are they hot or not? Because there's a saying, "Doodh ka jala chhach ko bhi fook fook ke girta." So I think probably great learning there. But I think the way that learning was disseminated, I don't agree with it. So yes, I think his motives were clear. But the problem is that this is how he had been brought up. This is how he had been trained. So, all those people in that generation thought what was good for them is good for us. And the generation is changing today. We would get beaten up in the school as well. And if we ever came home and complained, our parents would beat up again to say, "तूने ही कुछ गड़बड़ की होगी." And seriously, if you ask this to your parents are going to tell you same thing. But today, if anybody hits my child, I think I'll be the first one standing in the school, pulling up the principal of the school that how dare he touch my child. So, which is that the people haven't changed, the times have changed. And it is important that people change with the times. Yes, the focus should be on learning. The focus should be on mentoring. Focus should be driven towards that the students must learn the art and the skill and the attitude. All three are important. But it's just the way that you choose how to train your people. You necessarily don't have to be abusive in the kitchen. I've worked 30 years in Oberoi hotels. I opened ITC Shonar Bangla. 30 years I worked hardcore in the kitchen. Um, and I think the only abuse I would have ever given in my life is holy cow, and not beyond that. So it's not important to shout in the kitchen. It's important to be assertive. There's a difference in being assertive and difference in being egoistic, difference in being angry, abusive. I think it doesn't make any sense. And I'm very blessed as a chef that I got an opportunity to train and mentor students when I joined Oberoi Center of Learning and Development. I've graduated more than 350 chefs all across the world, out of which 200 are the executive chefs, few are the corporate chefs, and I think a handful have also won the Michelin stars. Um, and yes, I think I only taught them how to sharpen a knife and chop an onion. I think rest it was their hard work, their perseverance, and their call to duty that is where they are today, right? But it is
Great.
very important to build the base. And I've understood one thing being in the training and development, that when you start shouting or screaming, the brain shuts down because the brain gets very scared. And when the brain shuts down, no matter what you're doing, the other person is not learning. So, what is the whole idea? The idea is to train someone, to teach someone, to inspire someone, to fuel the passion in them. How that can happen by abusing, by shouting, I don't get it. And I still, keep telling the chefs that it is never important to shout and scream in the kitchen. Yes, there was a time when people were very influenced by the Hell's Kitchen of Gordon Ramsay, and how you would shout and scream, and I understand. I've been there. I've done that. Like I've been in the kitchens where I thought it was too cool, like the Caribbean cruise line, Pirates of the Caribbean. So I know what it feels like. But please don't get influenced by the TV and the social media. Chef Gordon Ramsay himself is a gem of a person, and he's not abusive like that in his kitchen. It's just the TV series that portrayed him like that, and of course, it runs on the TRP, so he had to behave like that. But if you see any senior chefs like Anthony Bourdain, you see Marco Pierre White, I think those are one of the most humble chefs I have seen in the kitchens. Chef Thomas Keller from French Laundry, Chef Daniel Hume from 11 Medicine Park, Massimo Bottura from Osteria Franciscana. I mean, these chefs, sometimes you feel that, do they even talk? I mean, they're so quiet in their kitchens. So yeah, the more quieter you are, I think more focused you are, the more better you can do. And just keep fueling your passion, keep learning. There is always, uh, new things that you will learn, new ingredients, new processes. You will see new guests. You will hear new requests. You will do one thing over and over again, and you'll refine your skills. You'll do it better than yesterday, better than an hour before, maybe. So, I mean, that is the beauty of the kitchen. Okay, sorry, I won't bore you with my lectures. I'm happy to, take questions and make it an interactive session.
Right, absolutely, chef. It's so interesting to hear all this from you. And one thing I totally believe that the times have changed, the generations are developing, they are moving on, they are changing in their own perspectives. And the career and the changes you bring to the table of 30 years of so much of experience, I am pretty sure they're amazing and they can do wonders. Also, chef, just to bring this on the note for everyone, that you have been a very big enthusiast of cycling, playing flute, and all of this as well. And certainly your Kashmiri background brings a lot of cultural rich heritage, because we all know Kashmir played a very important role in the cuisine, in the uh, culture which was brought from all the way from Mughals during the Silk Route times and everything. So, putting one by one, because I have so many questions out of my curiosity also. So, putting first question in time, how has this exercising a lot? Because I see you always on the bike ride, I always see you moving, and at such a experience and such a age, you've been more active than I think any of them.
No, I
And
think it is. I would again credit all this to OCLD, because I had a 5 days week. So it is very very important to work and party harder, I believe, and important to take care of your health, because we are in a profession which is we are always surrounded by good food, and if we don't exercise well, then it is going to take a real toll on your health. So I did try things from running to walking to gymming, but didn't didn't work out as much for me as much was the cycling. So of course, I've cycled almost 40,000 kilometers in last 5 years. And I very soon, maybe this year or next year early, I want to ride from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, riding 100 kilometers every day, stopping over 100 kilometers in a catering college, cooking 4 5 dishes with the students, and next day moving on. So I've kind of made a path, and it's an open invitation to all the students, whoever want to join at whichever part of the journey. You're more than welcome. You may all follow me on my Instagram. Chef Bali is my Insta handle, and you can ask me questions there and keep updating yourself of what's happening.
right, absolutely. But it's very interesting to see that army background and military background coming. And Chef, how do you think that adds more value to the kind of hospital? Because I believe I always wanted to be in Air Force, because my dad was from Air Force, then he moved into civil services, and I always wanted to be shaven clean every day, wearing a suit, and that always inspired me. So I'm sure there must be something which inspired you, and you still made a bet, ठीक है यार कुछ नहीं, I will still move to hospitality because I find this similar in this.
Well, I'll tell you, my situation was slightly different. I only moved to hospitality because I didn't like engineering. And I thought that, I will have nothing much to do in hotels. So I'll study for my medical ventures. And I went to Calcutta thinking that I'll appear for Calcutta Medical College the next year. But, all those things didn't happen. But I'm very happy when I joined hotel management. There were quite a lot of similarity. What being an army kid, I think I was brought up with. So certain value systems, which you learn being a being an army officer's kid is integrity, honesty, never say no attitude, always well groomed. The communication skills are very, very important, because being in the army officer circle, again, the English language, um, uh, being well dressed, I think it's all a norm, so these are things that are always there. And I think that is what the hospitality is about. It's about discipline. It's about communication. It's about how you greet your guests. How do you come across? How do you offer the service? So I would say there's lot of similarity. And being in that thing, I think my battle was 70% already won, I would say.
Right, right, absolutely. And Chef, because there are a lot of people who had sent us a lot of questions, so we received and we selected some of the finest ones.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were curious because you had spent so many years in the industry, 3 decades of experience, actually more than that, what you bring to the table, with so much of refinement, with so much of understanding about that how this industry works, not only the kitchen perspective of it, I'm sure the business perspective also has been a very good evolution while you have been working here. So Chef, because you have been associated with Oberoi for such a long period of time, OCLD, and there are a lot of kitchen enthusiasts right now listening to us, what do you think is, or let me start as a scratch, a kitchen enthusiast should actually do and build up his career like? And at especially at the college level, what are the, let me say, technical part or kitchen trade tests, because that is something which we have at the hiring process. What is that you would recommend he should build up to prepare for Oberoi's or Taj or one of the best companies, ITC or anything?
Okay. So I would talk generic and not only for the kitchens, though I would also tell you about trade test and for the culinary people. But I think
Absolutely.
I will talk overall generally for even people who want to join sales and marketing, housekeeping,
Right.
or even guest service management.
Right.
Because then it will cover the whole range of students who are attending this session.
Absolutely.
Now, the answer actually lies with all of you. All you have to do is on a piece of paper, write that if you were opening up your own restaurant, what kind of manager would you hire? What kind of chef would you hire? And trust me, I don't even have to delve into this, but you will have 12, 13 points already listed down. The topmost will come that you want somebody who is, at least skilled or at least has the will. Because, if you have the will, then the skill can obviously be acquired. So positive attitude, communication, being able to talk with the guests, a nice person at heart, person with a lot of common sense, um, person who's willing to learn, and who doesn't have this attitude of I know it all. Oh, I know this. Not just a fake knowledge, but a deeper understanding of things, understanding of what's happening around in the world, being aware of what's happening in the world. This is very important. And I will tell you over my period of career interviewing people, these are 2, 3 things that are ignored by most of the students, but these are the things that top and make a lot of impact on the interviewer. One is understanding your own world that you live in. Trust me, I have met people who have told me that the capital of America is New York. I'm sure 10% of you sitting in this room also thought that the capital of USA is New York. People did not know the name of prime minister of a country. Forget about vice president's name or president's name. Prime minister. Um, they don't know the 7 East states, what we call as 7 sisters. Nobody can name all the 7 states there. Uh, Nobody can tell me how many states are there in India, right? Some say 23, some say 24, some say 27. But people are not confident when giving answers about general awareness. And mostly in interviews, people ask a lot of open-ended questions. So there is not just yes or no, one-word answers. People would just talk generally about a situation that's happening in the world and ask your views about it. Unless you followed the news, unless you've heard it, there is no way you can crack an interview, because an interviewer clearly knows that you have just prepared last 1 week studying the headlines and coming prepared that I know general awareness. This is not how it works. So being generally aware, following news constantly, understanding what's happening in the world as an overall general world that you live in. Okay, so which in other way transpires that you are interested to know what's happening in the world. You will be genuinely interested in knowing and talking to people. You will be you will understand where the guest comes from, which region. You'll be able to talk about his country, his cultural differences, etc. The other thing definitely is the knowledge, technical knowledge. And I understand, as a hotel management student, you can think, oh my God, what do I study? And so much so that, I actually I'm planning to write a book of questions, for the students, and for the people to say that, okay, if you learn at least these questions, your technical rounds you'll clear. Uh, but I'm holding my thoughts back because then people said that no, chef, then nobody will study. They will just read those questions and go. So again, like I said, not a superficial knowledge. We need a deeper understanding of things. Most of the times, people ask, like in kitchen interviews, people say, okay, can you name me 5 breakfast rolls? Now, there are people who have done the industrial training, been to the hotels, been at the breakfast buffets, but cannot name anything more than muffin and a croissant. It is sad. and especially when you're wanting to become a chef and a culinary enthusiast. Okay, then we ask the questions like, okay, tell me, your favorite cuisine, and somebody says Italy, and we tell them, okay, how many regions are there in Italy? What's a pesto? How many types of pestos are there? No clue. So my only thing is that if you know something, then please, if you're passionate about something, you will obviously try to find it out. So please don't fake it, because the people on the other side, from your answers, they know how much you know. So read about things, what you don't know, apologize and say, I don't know. I will try to find out and I'll get back to you. Take their coordinates, take their email IDs, get back to them if possible. Lot of behavioral questions asked. And I'll tell you, it is not about questions, but it's about attributes. Because I'll tell you, there are 8 or 9 attributes that people are looking forward to. And based on the attribute, they'll ask you open-ended questions. So, for example, to know how hardworking are you, people might just ask you questions like, what's your activity that you like doing the most? Now based on that, you're sporty, you do this, you do that. There is a little bit thing about which one can infer that this person is really, very, very hardworking. Or, somebody will say, tell me the hardest thing you ever done in your life. And of course, some people end up saying, oh, I stood up 12 hours in the night studying for my class 12th exams. You're actually harming yourself by saying that, because the interviewer knows that you didn't study all through the year and you were so stressed that you had to study for 12 hours in the night for the next day's exam. Okay, so be very careful of what you answer, because the behavioral questions are trying to point at the things that show you as a person. Your personality comes out in those open-ended questions.
True, very true.
So be upfront, be confident, and the only way you'll get confidence is from knowledge. So at least do whatever is done in the industrial training, or at least be confident in few things. Prepare those. Yeah. And if you tell the interviewer that, I may not know everything, but I tell you, you ask me anything from salads, soups, to world business, politics, sports, I should be able to answer. But make sure then that you prepare these things by heart. And, you should not falter at any question that is asked on this one. There also you have a great chance, because people know that, okay, this is the substance. The person committed, he knows this and he knew it very well. So I think it's just your level of confidence. The second thing is, when you walk into an interviews room, um, you're trying to sell yourself really in a way. So for that, you have to package yourself. You have to groom yourself. Uh, Gentlemen, be well shaved, have a proper haircut, wear a nice suit, wear a pale pastel colors tie. Don't wear too bright suits, no bright shirts, no gelled hair. Look like a groomed F&B, groomed hospitality person, like a general manager of some hotel. Ladies again can wear saris, business suits, but look prim and proper, hair neatly tied up. It is very, very important to look like a hospitality professional. So when you walk in, the interviewer must be able to see a future general manager in you, a future executive chef in you, because the company is going to hire you only when they see, they're not just giving you a job. They want somebody to associate with that can stay with the organization and can one day become the president, vice president of the organization, and really take the organization to the next level. Right? So you have to walk in the same way, with the same confidence, with the same grooming, a smile on your face. Very, very important. Don't be nervous. If you don't know anything, just say, I don't know. Say it with a smile. But also at the same time say, but I know this. So don't just keep quiet. Don't get stuck up in a corner. Come out confident. Everybody doesn't know answers to so many things, but just come out and say, I don't know this, but I know something related to this. And the interviewer will shift the question to that. Um, and interview many times, asks you that, okay, tell me, what should I ask you? What are you confident in? Those are also things that interviewers do. So basically, an interviewer is not there to corner you. He's there to bring the best in you. But you also need to be less stressed. Don't be nervous at all. At the most, what will happen? You won't get the job. Nothing more can happen. And if you
Right.
don't get a job somewhere else, doesn't mean your career is all jacked up. You will do somewhere, you will do well. Everybody who is famous today, whether it's Vikas Khanna, Ranveer Barar, hey, listen, none of them is from Taj Management Training Program or from Oberoi School of, Oberoi Center of Learning and Development. They've all probably joined as commies. They worked their way up, and look at how successful they are today. So there's a path carved out for all of you. Don't worry. Maybe we can't see always in the end of the tunnel, but when you start something, start with commitment, start with good motive, start with passion, start with knowledge, and just go for it. Then sky's the limit. And I'm just going to open up my own culinary school in Gurgaon. I've worked 30 years with Oberoi Hotels. I don't know if you all have heard of School for European Pastry. It's in Andheri. So now we are coming up with School for European Pastry and Culinary Arts. So I'm one of the part owners of that. We are getting the school up and running. I think by August it will be up and running. And of course, there is a very special program for 10 days that I wanted to conduct at my school, was to do a 10-day crash program on preparing people on how to crack management training interviews. So we plan to do mock trade tests every day. We plan to do mock interviews every day. We plan to, take theory sessions. So it'll be an 8-hour session every day for 10 days, 80 hours of training. So if anybody is interested, post that can, of course, DM me on my Instagram. But that is what I want to do to help the students. Because sometimes, you all are there. Sometimes you just need a little nudge to be able to crack that. But like I said, just read, do whatever you've done in your industrial training. Be aware of terminologies, and especially for people going for guest service management, the more open you are to multi-skilling, the more your chances are that you'll get absorbed in hotels. Because people are not looking hardcore for just front office people. People say, okay, I'm interested only in front office, I'm interested only in F&B. I would recommend that don't restrict yourself, because you have only seen the hospitality industry of last 3 years. What about the next 30 years which lie ahead of you? How do you know that you can't be a good F&B person? How do you know you can't be a good housekeeper? How do you know you can't be a good front office person or an F&B person? So clearly, I think you need to be more open. You say, yes, my interest lies in front office, but I'm open to working anywhere, right? And that is the best attitude, because please don't look for just being a general manager. Look for being a president of that organization. And when you look at that high above, then look backwards and say, where do you start? There are people who have started in kitchens and ended up being presidents. There are people who have started with housekeepers. My friend Ranju Jha, so Ranju Alex is her name. She started with housekeeping. We are same batchmates from IHM Calcutta. Today, she's the vice president Southeast Asia for Marriott Hotels. Big girl, right? But starting in housekeeping, and that is where she is today. So there are many success stories of people who have either joined front office, food and beverage, housekeeping, kitchen, and today they have gone to different scaling heights in hospitality industries, and they've done wonders for themselves. So please don't just focus yourself on one department. I would recommend keep your eyes, ears open, uh, and even if you like housekeeping, even if you like front office, I would recommend don't stay in front office forever. Stay there 2 years, 3 years, move out, learn new skill, because tomorrow you will be in charge of the whole hotel. It is very important for you to understand the business, how the business is run, how the hotels, run their own businesses. And this you will never be able to know if you're just restricted yourself just to one little department.
True that, Chef. And this is also very aptly said by you. There's a lot of because since we have been doing a lot of trainings and development, I kind of can relate that there is so much of skill gap between colleges and the industry at times, that when we put out a case study in front of our students who are doing any programs or anything while learning with us, we see that it kind of fails them to understand that customer behavior part of it, the business understanding of it. How does, maybe let's say, the costing of the kitchen work? How do you actually not cut cost but rather save cost across your departments? And that is so apt said by you, that most of us fail to understand. 3 साल की engineering के बाद, if you do not understand कि भाई socket को कैसे fix करते हैं, so you kind of fail. And that's what we keep on telling our students and everywhere, ki after 3 years of hotel management, you should be very well and apt to, in fact, talk about food and beverage, talk about guest services, talk about business, sales, marketing, anything of the hotel. Because again, the program does not say front office management. Then you would have done a diploma. That is why it's called hotel management, an overall perspective to it. And that is so right, hearing it from you the right way. Chef, over here also, because we will have a lot of understanding, you have been there, you have seen that, and you have done that. How does the kitchen management training programs anywhere, or let's say specifically at Oberoi, is also, what is that one thing you look for, and how do their selection process works? If you could like just be a little limelight on that.
So I think we really look for people who we think have the will to learn. And the trade test which happens at any hotel is really not really to judge the taste of your food, because the taste is very subjective. Number one, it could have been a bad day for you and you might have created a not so good food maybe. um, but the whole idea when you work in the kitchen, the 80% of the trade test is really to see that how are you working in the kitchen, how are you handling that pots and pans, how swift is your motion, and there is something that is unexplainable. Any senior chef who have been in the kitchen can see a person working and handpick 3 or 4 people who he thinks that are made for the kitchen, because it is like a kinesthetic sense. It is like today when you tie or tie your shoelaces, you really don't look at each knot. You
True.
just know how to do it because you've done it so many number of times.
True.
So how a person is working in the kitchen. Either some people are just cut out for the kitchen, or some people are not. And let's accept this, it's an aptitude, right? So of course it can be learned, but it will take twice the time. And for any hospitality management training program, they have at the most 2 years to groom the people. So they want to take somebody on board who already is at a level from which they can now take on and train them.
True.
So I don't say that a lot of people who don't get selected are not good. They're excellent. They're probably very good, but just that maybe they need a little bit more time. And that is the reason what Oberoi Hotels often offers is something called OSA. So if you don't get selected through OCLD and you're offered an OSA, please don't feel dejected. I would say please jump and pick up an OSA program. OSA means that right after you pass out from your college, you'll have a job in Oberoi Hotel. And you'll join as a commie, but you'll learn the skill. You'll be there, experience. And July, if you join, October, the Oberoi Hotels again come for interviews. And you will appear as an internal candidate. And you always have a age till age of 25. You can appear for OCLD. And let's say you are 20 years age. In 5 years, who knows? You get a breakthrough and you go and start working with the Michelin star chefs in London. Maybe you open up your own QSR. Who knows? You get a brilliant opportunity. If not, then in 25, you already would become an executive in Oberoi Group. So you necessarily don't have to really go through the OCLD program. So being a manager, being an executive in any hotel is not difficult. You can become that in 5 years, working hard. Of course, management training program is a shorter route, because you do that for 2 years and you become a manager. Right. But still, those managers are not highly respected. I mean, they still have 2-3 years to perform themselves, because they come in and there are people who are double their age and they tell them कि तुम्हारे तो जितने अभी off हुए हैं इतने तुम्हारे झटके हो गए हैं अभी तक. So that is the industry you're in, because it's a skill-based industry. So you can never tomorrow gain respect by telling a commie that तुम हट जाओ, मैं अकेले omelette section संभाल सकता हूँ. I can do twice the work as you. No, not that. I think it's important that you're a people's person. You're understanding how to make the guests happy, how to make career aspirations of your people, how to make sure that the standards which are set by your bosses are followed, and how you're contributing to the overall growth of the organization. So those are the few things as a manager that you really have to look into.
True that. True that. Attitude, perspective, and the vision, the belief system, let me say, the value system is something which any of the management trainee, what you also said, Chef, and what I have also seen in out of my experience in food and beverage for last 12, 13 years, that very consistently there is one skill set which every management trainee, whether we had students who moved into Hyatt, Taj, Marriott's, Oberoi's, and consistently we have seen during those interviews that case studies, the attitude checking part, whether you are a chef, and a lot of students come to us and say, yaar, मैं तो kitchen का बंदा हूँ, why should I focus on soft skills? And that is the time I say that chefs are no more chefs. They have to come out, market themselves, they will interact with guests, they will do n number of things these days. These are now business professionals, no more the people you thought कि यार kitchen range पे खड़े होंगे, खाना बनाएंगे और खत्म हमारी कहानी. It's a bigger chunk of business now, I believe. That is my thought to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's so much growing every step, and the way I'm sure you have been in industry for such a long 3 decades, and you must have seen there are so many changes which have happened while the analytical and logical thinking it's tested. Because during my time when I was a management trainee, it was way too different. It was just simple कि यार आप अंग्रेजी बोलता, आप एक अच्छी पर्सनालिटी वाले इंसान हो, आ जाओ. अब वो एक अच्छी पर्सनालिटी, एक अंग्रेजी तो बहुत एक सिंपल एक थ्रेशोल्ड हो गया है. उसके ऊपर जो आपने बोला एनालिटिकल स्किल्स, आपके लॉजिकल थिंकिंग, आपकी केस स्टडीज, आपका हॉस्पिटैलिटी एक्यूमेन और बिजनेस एक्यूमेन कैसा चलता है, that is something very strong, I believe, these days hotels focus on. And it's marvelous that we should start not preparing for our interviews maybe in the last. मैंने ज्यादातर स्टूडेंट्स के साथ देखा है प्रॉब्लम, कल इंटरव्यू है, आज मॉर्निंग में प्रेपरेशन होगा कि यार मेरे को क्या करना है. एंड I always say, यार 4 महीने पहले करो, 6 महीने पहले करो, and that is the time you should. And I'm sure trade test तो kitchen में you have to prepare like years back when you actually start. And passion, तो अब I was talking to a general manager actually the other day, and he said, यार कुकरेजा मेरे को समझ नहीं आता, passion तो खत्म ही हो चुका है. I was like speechless over there, and I could not say anything on that. Because I truly believe, जैसे आपने कहा कि भाई हमें टीचर्स मार देते थे, शेफ जला देते थे, फिजिकल भी होता था. अब अगर आप किसी को ये भी बोल देंगे यार ये काम कर, you do this, and that is the time he takes a back step and says, why should I work for 12 hours? And I believe, I don't know, sometimes we criticize the hospitality industry so much, and I believe whatever I am today has been built because of the industry. I have been very fortunate to work in Europe, Australia, London, Paris. I have traveled around the world, and that has all been just because I was a hospitality graduate, worked my ladder to food and beverage head, worked with best of the brands, Oberoi, Taj, Marriott, and everywhere. And that is what I think learning was like for me also. And passion is absolutely, you mentioned, Chef, is the right process. Chef, also to ask you, what would be the parameters, like for example, what I understand, as you said, there are very basic skill sets what are checked during your trade test. Like for example, checking on what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe checking on the food quality, the seasoning, the thickness of the sauces, the texture of the food, the how well is it cooked, it is undercooked, overcooked, have you not burnt it? And rather than that, I have seen, especially for Oberoi's and OCLD, while you take interviews, and at any other management training program also, Taj, Oberoi's or anywhere, that is something that how do you handle the pressure and the entire situation? Are you able to manage that 7-course long or 4-course long menu in the 3 hours of time? Is that, or do you think there are something specific? What do you check?
I think number one we check is that how organized the student is working. Is he set up his station? Is he working methodical? Is he working
True.
neat and clean all the times? Is he understanding the food hygiene aspect? Are the things just lying all around, or he's preparing something, shrink wrapping it, putting in the refrigerator? Uh, he has a good knife skills. He understands how to hold a knife, cut things, less wastage. How is he going to use the wastages? Whether the trimmings are being used for a stock or are just being thrown away.
True that.
Because that is attitude towards money, towards yields and everything. Then, of course, his flair for cooking. If he's all over the place, burning this, burning that, burning his hand, or he's methodical, he knows how to season the pan, when to put the fish, how to have the clean plates there. Basically, organized. Does he have a work plan in mind? Does he have listed down 9 to 9:30? I'll do this. 9:30 to 10. Is he methodical?
True
Those
that.
things are very important in the kitchen. Planning, organizing, executing.
True that.
Uh, but apart from that, let me tell you, I've had instances where a student has come up with just a seared chicken and a chicken which was absolutely raw inside. The rice which were mushy, the vegetables which were over salty, and they presented that food. And my first question always was, are you happy with your food? If a student is able to tell me exactly what has been wrong with his food and why, he has more chances of getting selected rather than saying, I tasted, everything is fine. And then when you see that rice is mushy and then that the vegetables are too salty, that the chicken is overcooked, undercooked, that's a clear thing of, no passion, um, overly confident, hasn't checked anything, is just saying that I'm happy because it looks good on a plate. That's all. Uh, but yes, there have people who have a bad day, who are struggling, and it's not saying sorry, I missed my train, I lost my knife. No, not those kind of things, but just things overall that I could not manage my time. The gas range was new to me. I put my chicken on, right, and I seared it. I should have now put a knob of butter in a stock and allowed it to cook. I should have put it in the oven, but I let it just cook on the stove itself. So because of the largest surface area of the pan, it got dried out very fast. So I should have maybe used another utensil. Now, here you're talking about you're critically analyzing and you're telling that, I know where I've gone wrong and I know that what I should have done in order to get it right. Now, that's important for me because I know that the student has a knowledge. Then I would absolutely disregard the bad day he's had today. And the person would still get selected in spite of doing a bad trade test because I
True.
knew that that person can cook. If I give him another chance, he will be able to make it again.
True that.
But that thing of analyzing and telling that where he went wrong and what he could have done better, I think that is a critical analysis of your thing. If you're able to do that, then that means that you have a sound knowledge.
Right.
Um, but yes, I mean, I've seen people in the trade test who are trying to, something is burnt and they're trying to switch with some other participants. Now, those are all noticed, and people think that we will not know, but those really create very, very bad impact on you as a person who has no integrity. So, things like dishonesty, integrity, not clean heart, those are the things, even if the person makes some amazing food, there's no way that the person will go through or get selected, because these things are far more important. A person's behavior is far more important than the skill. And even today, I mean, I would tell all the chefs that, no matter how good you cook, but unless you can strike a chord with the guests, your team, are you a people player? That is important because those are some things that will really take you very, very long run. They'll take you to the heights, because you're interested, genuinely interested in your people. I'm not saying that keep making their life happy, relieve them 1 hour before. No, your people should be such that they want to work with you and they're not clock watchers. जैसे शेफ कोई बात नहीं आप यहाँ खड़े हो 14 घंटे हम आपके साथ हैं. So those are the kind of inspirations that the people should draw from you. You need to be a kind of person that you don't have to tell anybody to stay back or go home. You just treat them like an individual. You're interested, genuinely interested in a person. And bringing about this point when you said that passion nahi hai. I mean, if you ask me personally, I blame the industry for it. And I say that, every young student who is coming into the hotel, they are coming because they're so enthusiastic. They want to learn.
True
But
that.
अगर हम उनको सिखाएंगे नहीं, अगर हम उनमें इंटरेस्टेड नहीं होंगे, and we just treat them as a labor कि अच्छा ये आया इसके साथ क्या करना है मुझे ही नहीं पता, चलो प्याज छीलने लगा दो, चलो स्वीट लाइम पील करो, जाओ स्टोर लेके आओ, जा बेटे यहाँ सफाई कर दे. I mean, who is going to work? Because at the end, people think that I'm wasting my time here. I'm not learning anything here. So it goes both ways. But to
True
such
that.
students, I will also say that please don't depend on spoon feeding कि आपको कोई बताएगा कि ये करना है. If you go through the annexure in my second book, The Quantity Food Production Operation, I have listed down what to observe in every kitchen, that what you should be observing. I don't know how many of you have opened that book and seen in the last pages. If you go to butchery, it tells you people, product, process, profit. What all the things that you have to observe. If you just observe that in your industrial training, you'll be super knowledgeable. If somebody gives you work, ki jao bete store khich ke lao. Don't just pull stores. Don't work hard, work smart.
True
Store
that.
pull karo, but write down the brands of olive that you picked up. Write down the drain weight and the net weight. When you're opening up a tin of olives, count the number of olives in a tin. This will go a long way with you. How many slices of pineapple are there in a pineapple tin? Because tomorrow when you become a chef, all these things will replay back. It'll be easy for you to indent and control costs.
True that. Costing here comes the major part.
Costing. Somebody tells you, okay, peel and chop an onion. Take 1 kilo of onion, peel it, weigh the wastage, and then say कि 1 kilo onion से कितना chopped onion निकलेगा, कितना slice onion निकलेगा. Somebody asks you to ये लो बेटे deep fry करो onions. Weigh the onions, deep fry the onions and say, what was the weight loss? From 1 kilo onion, how much fried onion did you really get? Because this will go long run in your recipes. Tomorrow when your recipe calls for 1 kilo spinach puree, you must know that 1 kilo of spinach only gives you 200 grams of spinach puree. Because palak ki yield after boiling goes 1/5 down. So, but those are the things that, ideally nobody has time in the hotels to hold your hands and teach you through single everything. But somewhere you also have to be responsible for your own learning. So when a work is being given to you, find out interesting ways on how you can learn from that. कि आप इस job से क्या क्या सीखोगे.
True that.
And once you've done that, make a 1-page report and give it to the chef. And say, chef, thank you so much for allowing me to peel and chop onions for last 1 week. Here is my critical report on onions. The onions that you buy are of different sizes. I recommend you buy 8 to 10 in a kilo, which will give you more yield. I was chopping a lot of onions and I saw 50% of the onions came not a single bulb, but double bulbed onions. The price of onion, I found out you're getting at this, but when I did a market survey, I found the price to be this. I'm telling you, the chef will come and kiss your hands, because you have excelled your work. You were given onions to peel and chop,
True.
but the value that I've added to yourself, nobody told you to do that.
True that.
But this is one example. Now, similarly, you need to think of examples on how you're going to add value to your learning. What value are you adding to your own self? What value are you adding into somebody else's life?
True
If that is the motto you live by every day, you will never fail anywhere.
100% chef. I so agree that critical analysis of everything you do in detailed orientation is sometimes so important, and specifically 99% of we or students, and I was a student 13 years back, so me going also to the industrial training was always like किसी ने guide ही नहीं करा, right? And now when I interact with students, when I talk to a lot of professionals, we only think, and from the time I have been in the industry, the industrial training itself is such a critical analysis which we fail to sometimes do. Like, for example, for food and beverage people, how many walk in, how did they walk in, what did they eat, what dish did they order, is it a star, is it a dog, or whatever menu engineering things we talked about. Like, for example, you said, how many onions did I peel? How did it weigh? And all of that is so critically analyzed. And this is what is going to be the basis of your, I think, management training interviews. If whether you are sitting in kitchen, whether you are sitting in your food and beverage, front office, housekeeping, sales, marketing, wherever, I think that critical analysis part is most of the times nobody tells us to do. And everybody says, यार चले जाओ वहां पे industrial training पे ना बस ध्यान से काम करना. And actually it is very true that until unless you critically analyze whatever you are doing, it would not work. And it will be a big fail.
Every table has a height, the guest table.
True.
Nobody stops you from measuring the height of the table. Nobody stops you from measuring the furniture in the restaurant. Nobody stops you from measuring the space around each, chair. And these are the things that teach you so much. You're learning at somebody else's expense.
True.
That tomorrow, when you have to open up your own restaurant, you exactly know these measurements. You know that what is the square feet area of a restaurant you need to sit 50 covers. Because हर chair के guest के बीच में कितना difference होना चाहिए, table की height क्या होनी चाहिए, chair की height क्या होनी चाहिए, napkin की measurement क्या है, tablecloth की measurement क्या है, what are the surfaces of your table, what is the Korean tabletop, what's the marble tabletop, what is wood, how is it maintained, how is the napkin purchased, what is the thread count, how many washes can it take, how much does it take to really wash one napkin, how much money goes in, wiping 1 square feet area of your restaurant or kitchen, what are the chemicals spent, so there is so much that you can yourself actually note down to say that, what can I do? What can I learn? And if you're learning yourself, trust me, working 12 hours, 14 hours, you wouldn't even care because it'll be so enriching for you.
Curiosity.
It'll be so awesome. Yeah. And you'll find कि दिन के 16 घंटे भी मेरे को कम पड़ रहे हैं, इतनी knowledge है आसपास.
I remember when I started working as a management trainee 13 years back, and I sometimes, when I grew up in my career ladder, became a director, I still did it. And every time I picked up my diary, I had one thing written. What did I learn today? And I sometimes feel, why does everybody not do that? That scribbling down your learnings of the day, comprehending, journaling your day every day. What am I doing today? And you will slowly and steadily realize कि यार आज मैंने कुछ सीखा ही नहीं. और तब मैं, जो आप बोल रहे हैं, तब मैं शायद जब यंग था, आई यूज्ड टू डू ऑल ऑफ दिस. एक टेप ली, पूरा मेजर करा, रेस्टोरेंट डिश आ रही है, शेफ का सर खाया. शेफ आल्सो यूज्ड टू be very angry at me, यार तू बहुत questions नहीं पूछता. And I used to be every time very curious कि नहीं, I need to do this because this is what I want for myself, not for anybody else. And when I became the HOD, I started realizing that this is the time that my people who are along with me or working for me or with me, they should also have that skill set in themselves and they should really prosper in their careers further. और आज बड़ा अच्छा लगता है जब when people call and say sir मैं director food and beverage बन गया, and it feels so happy कि यार you had mentored that person someday and now he's striving so great in his career. It really feels great. I'm sure जैसे आपने कहा वो Michelin star बन गया, ये बन गया, and it really makes you happy. And I think that is the best part of mentoring someone in life.
I think another question which I didn't get questions from the students, but I'm sure that many of them also have an aspiration ki chef, should I go and study abroad, should I go for my masters,
Right.
So I think that is another question which frequently people ask me, and I said that well, if you have that kind of money, please go ahead and do it. But again, the question is ki kya karna hai? At the end, why do you want to do it? Because whether it's a BBA in hospitality, MBA in hospitality, in the end, it's like a medical profession. आप डॉक्टर पास आउट होके ऑपरेशन करना नहीं शुरू करोगे. You need to have experience. You need to be able to see so many patients. You need to have performed many surgeries before you can do it all by yourself. Like a pilot, how many flying hours you have? सिर्फ पायलट का कोर्स करते ही आप हवाई जहाज उड़ाने नहीं लग जाते अकेले. You have to clock in number of flying hours. You have to go sit with the co-pilot and then take the first flight all by yourself. So similarly, in hospitality industry, it is your skills, it's your experience that counts. अगर आप 4 साल 2 करोड़ देके culinary institute of America से पढ़ के भी आ जाओगे, what next? What do you plan to do? If you're going to think that you're going to come and become an executive chef, it will never happen. You will still join at a entry level position, which you could join even now. So yes, if you want to go and study abroad, if you want to work abroad, then yes, please by all means go ahead and do it. But the struggle is even more. If you work in India, when you work in India, you still make so many things in the kitchen today. You make the stocks, you make the jus, you debone a chicken, you process all the vegetables. Abroad, the labor is so short that they are getting most of these things ready-made. Stock एक dried cubes में आता है, पानी डालते हो stock बन जाता है. So overall, your skill levels will diminish if you straight away go and start working abroad, because you'll not know how to make things from
From
scratch.
scratch.
India may you will learn how to make things scratch. You will learn jugards. You will learn if this doesn't work, how can I do this to make that happen? And if you work in India for 3-4 years and then try to move abroad, trust me, your life will be more and more sorted out. Then if you just try to, at this point in time, go earn a degree of MBA in hospitality, I really don't know how that will help you.
True.
Because मेरे पास अगर OCLD के लिए कोई ट्रेनीज आते हैं तो मैं नहीं देखता कि इसकी एजुकेशनल डिग्री क्या है. Yes, there should be 3 years hotel management. That's all. But I don't see from which university has he done MBA, has he done culinary analytical strategic development training. Oh no, nothing like that. I want to see my chef if he knows how to cook, if he has good technical knowledge, has the will to learn, and he's on board. So yes, there are a lot of marketing gimmicks happening. There are a lot of these educational institutions talking about MBA in hospitality, BBA in hospitality, and whatnot. But at the end, hospitality is hospitality. Hospitality is about serving customers. Hospitality is about having a lot of common sense, which is very uncommon. And this is not my dialect, Mr. Oberoi used to say. So that's all. I think it's a very skill-based industry, and you should very carefully choose what you want to do. And if you want to open up your own restaurant 10 years from now, then not necessary that you have to get into a management training program. Then work your way backwards. And say if you want to open up your restaurant, it's better that you have 1 or 2 year experience working in a small hotel. Because in a small restaurant, you will learn more about how to procure licenses. Every inch is a space. You're your own engineer. You're your own procurement manager. Hotel, you have a departments to work for you. So, and then to open up your own restaurant, you must first 2 years work in a bulk restaurant, bulk kitchen. Know your business. At least for 5-6 years, know your business hardcore. Then jump into getting into your own business, etc. Because if you don't have your skill, you will just be dependent on people. And as you know, people are very volatile these days. They keep jumping jobs for 500 rupees increase here and there. Please don't look for jobs, look for careers. So have a stability. Maybe आपको कोई 1000-2000 वहां ज्यादा दे रहा होगा, but maybe 3 साल बाद ये वाली जगह आपको कई लाखों दे रही होगी. So think like that. Think long term. Don't have short term quick fixes in your life. Life's not easy. यहाँ difficult हो रहा है, ऐसा नहीं है कि वहाँ easy होगा. Grass is always greener on the other side. वहाँ कुछ और challenges होंगे, वहाँ कुछ और problems होगी. So figure out how it is going for you.
True. No, thanks a lot, Chef. Thank you for so much of information and knowledge around for all of us. I would certainly say that the time we have been in training and development from last 4-5 years, the one thing what everybody says in the industry, and you also said it very right, that you learning and having that curiosity feeling for anything you wish to do, whether it's an entry level job, whether it's a management training, it is so apt to actually start. अगर आप कुछ नहीं करेंगे तो कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकता. That is accidentally true, and I'm sure with so much of knowledge, I felt that it was so much radiant that you wanted to give away to everyone, and it was so enriching that I'm sure everybody had a wonderful experience and a lot of learnings and a lot of understanding of everything. I really wish you all the best, chef, for the School of Pastry as well. And I
Thank
would
you.
love that we see you more often here with us.
Sure.
I would also love to meet you soon in Gurgaon, because we are very closely accompanied by the states as well. And this is something very interesting. The entire industry
Sure.
is so small. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Uh,
any students, who wish to come to, we are doing this Annapurna food show is happening in Delhi, Yashobhumi, on 5th, 6th, and 7th of June. And there are a lot of master chefs, including myself. You're doing a lot of demos and all that. If you're in Delhi, if you're on holiday, please drop in. You can say hello to me. You can meet many other chefs. So it'll be a great opportunity for all of you to interact and have a look at the exhibition. It's like a har. So it's called Annapurna. You may go onto the Google and just see Annapurna Food and Beverage Show in Delhi. And there are many exhibitors. You'll see new products, new things, chefs doing demos. So will be nice.
right.
And I see a lot of hands being raised. If you have any questions, you may please DM me on my Instagram. I don't promise I'll reply in 24 hours, but I will do it in a period of time.
No, absolutely. If you have more questions, we can always circulate it a Google form. We can always ask chef to answer your questions separately. So we can again circulate you a Google form. You can put in your questions, but questions not like how to improve on your spoken English. That is a culture. ये मेरा अपना मानना है शेफ कि अगर आप कल्चर बनाएंगे उस चीज का, तो आई एम श्योर यू विल डेवलप दैट एवरी टाइम. जैसे अगर आप किचन का ट्रेड टेस्ट का प्रिपरेशन कर रहे हैं और अगर आप अपने आसपास कल्चर बना लेंगे, आप फूड शोज देखेंगे, इंटरव्यूज देखेंगे, यू विल इंटरैक्ट विद एक्सपर्ट्स, you will cook at home, experiment, burn, and then recook and then redo it. I think there is nothing which can stop you cracking a good management trainee anywhere around the globe. कुछ भी नहीं हो सकता. So absolutely, if you have some smart questions on your mind, we can circulate your Google form, put them in, and we will be so happy to bring chef on board again. Just keep a live session where you can ask questions and talk to him individually, and that would be something interesting to do. Thank you, chef, once again for being here, coming and pulling out almost 60 minutes of your life. Thank you so much for everyone.
If there's an opportunity, somewhere where I can do a cooking demo with all of them.
Absolutely, chef.
Not online, but offline. Somewhere in a place where we can, cook.
So let me also say this out loud that soon in August, we will hold a full 2 or 3 days of a workshop for all the hospitality students, which we are planning. And and while I was talking and inviting chef, I think I did mention this. Ekdam se pehla thing, Chef Bali, that this is something which I would love to invite you for a physical workshop, which we will be doing. And I'll be so happy because I think, Chef, while we also had this conversation in the beginning, we share a very similar thought. And I really feel sometimes, because while I grew in the industry, I did not have a lot of mentors. I was very lucky to have few. And I always wanted that students who are right there in the industry should have that specific mindset to actually get in and say, "Yaar, I am the one who can create wonderful experiences for people. I just don't sell food. I am the person who creates experiences and leaves a mark here." And that is one of the visions also Young Leaders Bootcamp started, and everything went on. And from last 4 years, doing all of this just keeps us happy. That is all I can say. No, chef. Absolutely. Thank you so much, chef. Thank you for joining in. Thank you. And
thank you, everyone.
For joining in, sparing so much of time. We'll be very happy if you have any questions, put it on your Google form. If you do not follow us, TBH Circle, we can always stay in touch. You can always reach out to us for any questions, queries, happy to address. And if there's anything else, we'll be happy to address to any time, any moment. There is one more upcoming workshop. You can always come and join us. It's on Taj interviews. So happy to address any questions of yours. And all the best. Have a lovely day and enjoy your evenings as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, chef. Bye-bye.